Hello, and thank you for joining my podcast. In this podcast, I continue to talk about Congress and the terrible performance that, you know, I'm evaluating Congress's performance. So their terrible performance that I want to talk about and how they don't prioritize America as their first priority or the American people. And I'm using simple examples from my life experience to basically show you that, to kind of prove it. And hopefully that will help you make better decisions when you vote and kind of take these positions more seriously, more than the presidential race. So that's basically ultimately my goal is to reach out to as many people as I can to share with them my experience and explain to them why they really need to look at the congressional candidates a lot more seriously because they do affect everybody's life, down to the lowest level. So it's important that we do that for America and the sake of American people who work hard every day and really get nothing in return. So in 93, I joined the California Army National Guard as enlisted, and I went to training, and I had really a great experience. I got to make a lot of friends and meet people from all over the United States, from Alaska all the way to Florida, then the West and the Northeast, and you name it. There was someone in basic training or my advanced individual technical training. So that was a great experience. I learned a lot from it, and it really helped me to assimilate in this society, understand the culture, and learn how to better navigate these situations that I run into later in my life, simply because I went through that experience and I got to learn so much about the culture and the different ways of speaking in America from the different regions. That was really like a great experience, and I love languages and dialects and speech, and all these things are a great deal of interest to me. So I really had a great time. Then later in my military career, I finished my bachelor's degree in business, and I decided to go to the officer candidate school to become an officer because it is required to have a bachelor's degree. So I applied to go to OCS. I was accepted, and I went to OCS, and I graduated. Our class was about 150 candidates, and only, I think, 22, if I remember correctly. That's from back from 1999, our graduation. Only 22 actually finished the program, and 19 were commissioned as officers in the California Army National Guard. The other three, I'm not really sure what happened to them, but they did not get commissioned for some reason. So I want to explain what the National Guard is from an individual perspective. When I joined the National Guard, it was pretty much it's part of the reserve component, which means generally you do, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. In the National Guard, sometimes we would get activated to fight fires or if there is any disaster or riots, for example, and then they would call the National Guard to assist in these circumstances. So that's pretty much what the National Guard used to do back in the day when I first joined. But after the tragic events of 9/11, of course, the entire country was mobilized, and the National Guard was one of those entities that was called up for duty, and everybody gladly went and wanted to participate and basically contribute and feel like we're doing our fair share in defending this country after what happened in 9/11. So I'm going to go a little bit back and forth, the before 9/11 and the after 9/11. The National Guard, basically, or the reserve component, you can stay in for 20 years and then you retire. You can retire, but you cannot collect your retirement until you reach the age of 62. Unlike active duty members who serve for 20 years and they retire and they immediately get, their medical benefits, their retirement pay, and everything that comes with it. The National Guard is not that way. And we also, our identification cards were different from active duty. So they looked different. Everything was different. So we can be identified, and we had limited access, for example, to the commissary. We were only allowed, I believe, one trip a month at the time, if I recall correctly. And there was like a punch card we used to carry, and you would go to the commissary and they would fill in that little box, and basically you had 12 boxes in that card. And I'm talking about simple things that we did not have full access to, like the military grocery store, the commissary, which they sell food, meat, milk, vegetables. We were only allowed to go there once a month. After 9/11, they decided, because the National Guard used to deploy in the United States. So active duty units would go overseas, and the National Guard would come in and fill for those units. For example, one unit I was a member of during the first Gulf War, they had to go to Texas to fill in for the active duty unit that actually deployed to liberate Kuwait at the time. So that's an example of what the National Guard generally used to do. So I'm not covering every single item, and people are going to say, "Oh, they used to do more," but that's not the topic. We're not here evaluating the importance of the National Guard. I'm talking about an experience that I went through that I was really puzzled by it, and I could not understand why it was set up that way. So there was always a difference between the way the active duty is treated as opposed to the National Guard. Now, what is the difference between active duty and the National Guard? In general, active duty, that's their job. It's the military full-time. They get all the benefits, full pay, housing allowances, kids go to school, and their wives or husbands, get benefits and all that. The National Guard doesn't have that. We are members of the society, the community that we belong to. We remain to be in that community, and we serve that community basically. So we have to have jobs, and we have basically, just like any civilian, pretty much we live our lives, except we are in the National Guard, and when called upon, we have to go and serve this country. And then at that point, we would get the same pay like active duty and housing allowance if that was something the person was eligible to receive. After 9/11, they decided since they wanted the National Guard to deploy overseas and be forward deployed like active duty members. So they had to kind of put responsibilities on National Guard units and members, to kind of equalize everything between National Guard and the active duty units. So we had to basically meet all the standards. Before maybe they were a little bit overlooked, and now after 9/11, since we're going to be always forward deployed, then we had to meet the same uh, standards, and they started to enforce that vigorously, which is fine. We were fine with that. We also received IDs that were just like the active duty ID, but it had a little remark that it was a National Guard person, not active duty, but they looked the same basically, just like the active duty as opposed to before we didn't. And then they decided, okay, we're gonna give them access to the commissary. So then we received unlimited access to the commissary. We didn't have to use that card anymore, and we didn't have to, the card that gives you only 12 visits to the commissary, and then we didn't have to worry about that. You could go every day and buy as much as you want. We were not limited to that. But in all honesty, we did not get any serious benefits. All the changes in those benefits that I'm talking about were basically established by Congress. Congress decided that, okay, we're going to give them access to the commissary, as if we go shop at the commissary, and buy stuff at the commissary, it was going to cause the United States Treasury some big deficit or something like that. I mean, how ridiculous and pathetic is that? That they're worried about National Guard members going to the unlimited access to the commissary. Like, I don't understand why they would put even a rule like that in the first place. But we had to meet the same standards. We had to deploy as often as active duty units while maintaining a life, maintaining a job. Our families were basically alone. They were not on a military base surrounded by a military community to get the support that they need. We're scattered. National Guard members are scattered. We don't live in a concentration. So we didn't really get any of that. And the topic I want to talk about today is the retirement of National Guard members. So when I retired after 22 and a half years, I did not get my retirement benefits. They basically said, okay, the rules are you will wait until you're 62, except in my situation and many people who were forward deployed like me as often as I did, they knocked out 2 years from the wait time. So instead of waiting until I'm 62, well, I'll get it when I'm 60. So that is something that I don't understand. When you ask people to do more and have more responsibilities, but yet you don't want to give them anything worthy in return. I mean, honestly, the commissary benefit, they had to vote on that in Congress. I mean, how pathetic. I mean, how pathetic is that? That this is something simple, easy, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, or even medical benefits. So you want the National Guard members to be ready to deploy in a short notice, okay, but you don't care about their health. They don't need to be healthy to deploy, so you don't want to provide them medical coverage or medical care. Forget them going to a private doctor, but you don't want to give them access to the nearby military base to go see a doctor or a dentist or anything like that. That especially the dentist. When we deployed in 2003 for Operation Iraqi Freedom, well, I can't tell you how many people failed the deployment basically qualification because their teeth. They needed dental work. And then these poor guys wanted to go serve their country so bad. They wanted to go so bad that they went to private dentists and got their teeth fixed and spent thousands of dollars, you know, to get their teeth fixed so they can be able to deploy, because then they would determine that they are fit to deploy. So then they would deploy because you need to be healthy. They're not going to send you to a war zone if you're not a healthy person, if you have problems, I mean, which makes sense. I mean, but no, you don't want to provide them with medical coverage to go get treated and stay healthy and be able to deploy in a short notice, just like you want them to, right? Because they're part of the military organizations that we have in this country that needs to be ready all the time. And the retirement, you have to wait until you're 62. And the National Guard retirement is not a huge one. It's not like active duty members. It's not like what police officers receive or firefighters, or it's nothing. It's a small amount of money that the National Guard member gets, a month, and that's based on their rank and how many years they served and how many years of active duty and all that. So it's not a huge amount of money. And I don't understand how Congress spends billions of dollars on foreign aid to foreign countries, and they give weapons to foreign countries and all kinds of stuff that cost billions of dollars. But they can't do right by their own National Guard veterans or reservist veterans. They have to wait until they're 60 or 62 to get their retirement. Like, I don't understand. And I know the American people may know, may not know. I know a lot of the American people don't know that, because when I mention that, people are usually surprised that this is what goes on. So you do 20 years, in the National Guard, then you can't retire and get your medical benefits until you're 60 or 62, because it's gonna, cause some budgetary issues. Or what kind of Congress do we have? And what kind of people do we have serving in Congress that they don't really care about Americans? They don't care about veterans. They don't care about prioritizing this country and its citizens. So that's why I'm passionate about this. And if I don't advocate and talk about these issues from the lowest level, from where the rubber meets the road, not the big issues, if I don't talk about it from that level and show you how hard it is to be a member of the National Guard and do what we had to do after 9/11 for about 20 years. That went on for about 20 years until basically the deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq and whatnot. Talk about the high operational tempo deployments. Right now, those are similar to routine deployments. When we have troops stationed in Iraq, for example, it's not necessarily as bad as it was compared to 2003, 2006. Things kind of quieted down. It's still dangerous, but it's not as dangerous. So it's similar to when people go to Germany or Japan or any other location, except it is still dangerous. People can get hurt over in Iraq, for example. I'm just using Iraq as an example. But I want to refocus back on the retirement, for example. I don't understand why this is not done. I don't understand why the National Guard members don't get equal treatment like active duty, but they have to bear the same responsibility. So the training that we have to go to. The seats for training are not as available as active duty members, for example. So I don't understand why this discrimination exists, and it continues on till today, and God knows for how long it's going to continue to happen. But it's something simple. Do right by the people. Give them what they earned. Don't make them wait. Don't give them a hard time. Don't treat them like they're begging for a benefit that they earned and they were promised this benefit. It's not like they decided, oh, they need extra this or extra. That was promised. When you join the military, it is promised to you, you will get XYZ of benefits. Some people may say, oh, well, you signed up for this and you knew that you had to wait until the age of 62. Sure, I did, yes. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right. And what's even more painful and sad, that we have members of Congress that serve in the reserve components today that are not doing anything about it. They don't want to do anything for the veterans. To me, that's worse than a Congress member that did not serve in the military. When you serve in the military and you know what it's like and you understand what people go through and you make it to Congress and then you turn your back on the people, your friends and your buddies that you deployed with and served with, and you don't want to help their cause of making them equal members in this society, how sad is that? And that is one example. I'm using this as an example. Congress could do a lot more, not just for veterans, for the American people, but they're not. And you have every right to question what they do or not do and give them, an evaluation. Give that member an evaluation. If they're doing bad, then don't vote for this person again. And ask them, where are you getting your funding from for your campaign, to run your campaign? Who's paying you money? And don't vote for people that receive millions of dollars from special interest. It's easy. Everything today is available on the internet. You can do the research and find out each candidate, what source of money they have. If they're getting large amounts of money from special interest, any large amount of money indicates special interest. Nobody's going to give somebody $1 million without expecting something in return. Just remember that. When you vote for people, just remember that. Make sure you vote for clean, honest people. And that's all I'm asking. Vote for people that want to do the right thing by you and by your fellow citizens. I hope you really enjoyed this podcast and found out some new information and find it helpful. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.